Our topic for today is the 7 elements of a compelling story. And the reason that we are discussing this today is because stories help motivate people to take action. Stories help make an emotional connection with people. And stories are the way you deliver your message and bypass, in most cases, the critical thinking of the audience member that you want to influence. So the first element of a story that I want you to focus on is the audience. And when we think about the audience, I want you to think about who is in the audience that you're presenting to. Who's in the room? Why are they there? What's their motivation for being there? And what are their expectations from you? What's the best thing you can deliver to them? What's of the most value? What's the most value you could provide them? Now, the reason I want you to think about this first is because you need to enter the conversation that they're having around their boardroom table in their office or around their kitchen table in their home. Really, even more importantly, you need to enter the conversation that they're having with themselves when they're sitting there. And the only way to do that is to put yourself in their shoes. So the audience, what are they looking to get out of your time together? What would be the most value you could potentially provide them? The second thing is, what is the emotion you want them to feel? People are motivated to take action based on emotion. Do you want them to be scared? Do you want them to think to themselves, oh man, if I don't hire an expert to help me with this, I might screw it up? Do you want them to think to themselves, if I don't take action now, I may miss out on an opportunity? Do you want them to have FOMO? Do you want them to have fear of missing out? Do you want them to focus on what they're going to lose? Or do you want them to focus on what they could possibly gain? Because that's what motivates people to take action. Fear of loss or moving toward a goal. Fear is a much more powerful motivator. But people are motivated by 2 things. They're motivated by achieving a goal or motivated to solve a problem or fear of a problem. From the emotional standpoint, why do they need to take action now? Why is this the right time for them to take action? The answer to that question is almost always going to be part of a motivational factor. So what emotion do you want them to feel? The third element of a compelling story is the setting. Where does this take place? And when you describe the setting to the audience, I want you to actually put them there. They need to feel like they are a part of what's going on. Describe the setting to them in as much detail as you can to make them feel like they're actually in the room watching what's happening, or they're standing next to you watching what's happening, or it's happening to them. I want them to be part of the scenery. Either they're an observer, or it's them that they picture in the place of the person that you're describing in the story. Okay? So you have to describe the setting in such a way that they feel like they're actually a part of it. The fourth element is the backstory. Now, all of us, and I'm guilty of this myself, so all of us get hung up on the backstory. We like to give people the whole history of why we got to this, or how we got to this point, or why we're here. Backstory is only relevant if it sets the table for what's to follow. Okay? So you only need to give people enough detail of the backstory. Give them enough of the backstory so that you prepare them for what's to come. Okay? You don't have to give them every little detail. Well, I was born in Mississippi and then we moved to Tennessee and then this happened and that happened and now we're here and I want to tell you about why you should buy my product. No, we don't need all of that backstory. Okay, you need only enough backstory to make sure that people have a sense of context so that people understand what's going on now. The fifth element are the characters. Okay? There's always a protagonist and an antagonist. There's always a good guy and a bad guy. Every story has a good guy and a bad guy. You need to make sure you highlight for the audience who the good guy is and who the bad guy is. And that should be evident in the actions that are taken throughout the story. Now, the bad guy can also be like an entity, okay? So if you're talking about the government and following the guidelines of the government could be the bad guy. Their program could be, the initiative that they've taken, or the law or the regulation could be the bad guy. That's fine. But there's always a good guy and there's always a bad guy. And then the level of detail, which is the sixth element, needs to be enough so that you have credibility, but it shouldn't be so much that it overwhelms people. So if you say the story started at 5:18 in the afternoon, that's detail, but only if it's relevant in that the sun sets usually at 6 o'clock, our story begins at 5:18, 40 minutes before the sun sets, okay? And that has to be relevant in some way to the story, otherwise don't include it, right? So only enough detail to make sure that people have the ability to suspend any disbelief that they have, okay? Then the seventh point, the final point, is the narrative. Every story follows an arc, okay? The setup, the build-up, and then the payoff. The setup, the build-up, and then the payoff. The backstory, character development, and the setting is the setup. The emotional connection that you make, adding some details, and taking them through the narrative, that's the build-up. And then the payoff is whatever the closing is, whatever the conclusion is, where they feel the emotion that you want them to feel. So audience, emotion, setting, backstory, characters, detail, and narrative are the 7 elements of a story.